Welcome to the Good Growing Podcast. I am Chris Enroth, horticulture educator from University of Illinois Extension, coming at you from Macomb, Illinois, and we have got a hostful show for you today. Katie and I, we have been out and about, and we have found Ken Johnson. So we're excited to welcome him back today and figure out what has he been up to. So without further ado, let us welcome our co-host with us every single week. We're joined by local food systems, small farms educator, Katie Parker. Hey, Katie.
Hey, Chris. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastically. It's like a delightful time right now. Like, weather is great. I don't think we're going to get that white Christmas like we talked about last week, though.
No, I don't think so either. But Christmas is right around the corner. Are you prepared?
I think so. I have to make one more trip to the store, but hopefully that will be the last of the trips this year. I don't want to do any more last minute shopping.
I hear you. It's crazy in town.
Oh, indeed. Yes. And I mean, I guess someone who must have we should ask him, and introduce him and see, has he been doing some last minute shopping? As a horticulture educator, Ken Johnson. Hey, Ken.
Hello. I think all my shopping is done. Haven't done any wrapping yet, but shopping's done.
You hope so, at least, right?
It may be regardless if it's not.
Well, Ken, Katie and I, we've been holding down the roof here, and just wondering, like, if folks have been asking, where's Ken been? We've had our guests to the show, and they're like, where is our favorite redheaded good growing host?
They're probably happy I wasn't here.
That is so not true.
Not true.
So I have been out of the office. Well, the days we've recorded, I've been out of the office at Illinois Agricultural Association board meetings, also referred to as Farm Bureau board meetings. So because I am the president of the Illinois Extension Agricultural Association, I get to sit on the board of the IAA or Farm Bureau. So I've been at some meetings and trainings and all that fun stuff.
It sounds like so exciting.
It's been interesting so far. So I get to do it for a year. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, excellent. Well, we have missed you, Ken. We're happy that you have returned to join us this week. We're talking about gifts. I'm wondering, Katie, do you have, I don't know if we quite mentioned this. Have you finished your shopping? Are you all done?
Every time I go to wrap a gift, I think of, oh shoot, I should get just one more thing. But I'm hoping I wrapped it up today. So
yes, every time it seems like we've wrapped a gift, we're like, it's like we've lost something, like a gift or something. Like, where did this one go? Like, we're losing things. And so then we have to run out and buy something else because we have 3 kids. And so we're like, they have to be balanced out.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ken, is that the same for you?
Yes. Everybody's got to have the same number or very close to it. So we do not have people unwrapping presents while others are done. And then they get angry because somebody got more than them. And yes.
Yes.
Does size of gift matter? Yeah.
Sometimes.
I would say sometimes if the gift is gigantic, like I think last year we got a big stacking like car garage for our littlest one. The older ones were still really excited to see what it was. So like, it's still kind of exciting, even though it's not technically yours, and even though they're the ones who played with it and broke most of it. So that's okay.
But that's not just my house.
That's okay. No. Well, but one thing, so I do have a couple extra things. So we work with other folks that might be gardeners or enjoy getting outside. Are there any other like last minute gifts that maybe we can get folks? Because we're down to the wire here pretty much. When we're recording this, we have 3 days probably to get things. Any suggestions? Last minute gifts?
I think a gardener can always use gardening gloves. It's always something useful that I like to get or to have on hand.
I'd say hand tools. They're good at trowel or cultivator or even printers if you want to go that route too.
Yes, I would second both those suggestions. I actually had a pair of, I guess they wouldn't have been leather, not cotton, probably more plastic than anything, because we made some pulled pork over the weekend and I grabbed the chimney out of the smoker there and it was a little too hot and I melted my glove. So if anyone I know is listening, I could always use maybe a good insulated pair of leather gloves that won't melt when I touch hot things. And then I could also use outside. So nobody I know listens to this show though. So.
All right.
So Ken, what is the state of the garden centers? Are places pretty picked over?
Well, I was at one of the hardware stores in town yesterday. And as far as, well, like holiday plants, poinsettias and stuff like that, they still had quite a few. Amaryllis were on clearance. So if you want some of those, go stock up. They may be done blooming, but you can read the article from a couple weeks ago and learn about how to get those to rebloom. So those aren't a one and done. You can get those paper whites. Those are still around. Things like that. So yeah, from what I've seen in Jacksonville, there's still plants and stuff around if you want to get them. Trees, not so much, but other plants.
So we can leave a link to that Amaryllis article. The other thing that I know we're dealing with in our house are poinsettias, and Katie last week wrote a fantastic article of what to do when you are gifted with a poinsettia. And if you're like me, that family member is going to be visiting later on in the season, and you want to make sure that it's not dead when they come visit. At least appear that you put some effort forward. So we have all kinds of great articles about keeping some of these gifted plants alive. So then you can show that gift giver that, yes, you do care about those plants and you care about what they give you.
Or go out and buy a new one real quick.
Yes, kind of like the goldfish, right? You go
Or the hamster.
Or the hamster, you go bury the hamster. You don't want to flush the hamster, but flush the goldfish, bury the hamster, and then go buy a new one real quick. The old switcheroo. All right. Well, another interesting thing, I think I should also wish everybody happy winter solstice. Shortest day of the year. So I know I'll be having a pagan bonfire this evening, so should be fun. You guys, does anybody celebrate the winter solstice?
Can't say that I do, but I'm looking forward to longer days, so I don't wake up when it's dark and come home when it's dark.
I have a friend whose birthday was today, so I guess that's a celebration, maybe. I don't know.
There you go. You can get them a cake and says happy birthday, you pagan. And yes, and celebrate the winter solstice and some birthdays.
There you go.
All right. Well, including some of the holiday fun things that have been happening, we've also had some weird, wild, wacky weather recently. We had some warmer temperatures last week. Actually, we got up into the 70s, at least here in Macomb. And then like Katie and Ken, I think each of you probably warmer even than that, right?
Yeah, it was gross. It should not be that warm in December in Illinois.
But not only was it warm, it was like super humid. It was just such a weird day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think some of this warmth might have triggered something, because I have gotten 2 instances where there have been people calling about bats in the house. So not sure if perhaps just that warmer weather might have just woke up some bats that were roosting in some folks' attic. But just thought that was interesting. So Katie, have you ever had to deal with bats in the house?
Yeah, actually. When I lived in Macomb, the place where I lived, we had bats in the attic, and we had them so bad that there were bat bugs, and they had to have someone come professionally remove the bats because there was so many bats in the attic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not an easy and cheap endeavor, that's for sure.
Well, I know like a lot of times you have to have someone sort of climbing around on the roof, looking underneath the like eaves, the soffit and everywhere, looking for any almost like quarter of an inch gap. You
Right.
just slide right in there.
I feel like they're like mice, like you have to make sure you're looking for anything. And really, like we would be walking down the hallway and we'd see one fly down or whatever. So they're a lot smaller than I guess I imagined them to be. So it makes perfect sense how they can get in and out of our houses easily.
I know there was an instance, so my parents have an attic that you can get into from the garage, and there was a little crack in the attic door. And one of the ways we always knew bats were showing up was that they tend to leave their droppings whenever they go into that space. And so we would just look for the droppings and we'd say, oh, bats are back. Because it was just in the garage and never got into the house itself, it was never a big deal. But did you ever get used to it, Katie? Did you start naming them?
No, so we honestly, it was an older building, so we would hear scratching in the walls, and we just thought that it was mice and kind of like, oh, no big deal. But turns out it was bats, and they removed them because it is a health hazard, and so that is something to be cautious of.
Yeah, I mean, just in kind of researching this for these last two questions I've gotten, bats do carry rabies. And so it is something that you need to take seriously. Very often they won't bite. Like they're not going to like fly at you to bite you. They might bite you if you grab them or if you hit them with a fishnet or a tennis racket or something, but they don't want to bite you. So, but the other kind of odd risk is the fact that wildlife are getting infected with COVID. And so that's one thing that they don't want to introduce into our bat population here in North America is COVID, because we already have some endangered species. So Ken, do you know when it comes to bats, do they hibernate?
I think so. Yeah. They don't have enough legs. I don't know.
But they don't do what the insects do and go into diapause, right?
Yeah, I do think they hibernate though.
It's a type of yeah. So they rest over the winter months, and so for the most part, if they're out of the way, I told the folks leave them alone. If they're not, if they can be avoided or they're in the attic and you never really see them unless you go in the attic, they come March they'll probably fly out, and then you can hire someone to seal up the cracks and crevices, install a one-way door so that they can leave but not come back. And that's usually the best way to go about it. If they're in a spot where they're unavoidable, they're like in the shower or something and you need to get rid of them, you got to call someone. Well, another thing that has happened, guys, is that once we had that really warm weather, it then shifted dramatically and we went from 70 degrees to 28 degrees, I think, in my neck of the woods. It got really cold really quick, and that produced significant wind. Like the wind currents shifted and changed, and at least in Macomb, we got wind gusts upwards of over 50 miles per hour. So Ken, were you seeing similar types of wind issues in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think we had some pretty good winds. We live in the middle of town, so we didn't. Wind usually isn't too bad because we've got a lot of trees and houses around us that kind of buffer all that. But I think we still had some pretty good winds. I didn't really hear any mention of any significant damage or anything like that. So.
I was going to say, I think the telltale sign is when you start hearing news reports of trampolines flying across the yard. So, we got some wind.
Did you guys have any damage in Macomb, Chris?
Yeah, we did have some trees that got knocked over, some mostly ash trees for the most part, I would say, and they were mostly dead to begin with. I'm always really kind of fascinated when I see trees that get snapped off in the wind, like how the physics of how it all works. One tree in particular, it snapped, but instead of falling sideways, it just fell down. It's like the top snap, but I don't know, gravity just pulled it straight down. And it was almost a clean break. And again, it was an ash tree. It was probably mostly dead, so it might have to do with it. I remember when we had Ryan Pankow on talking about storm damaged trees a long time ago, and he said it all has to do with how the woody fibers of the tree develop that dictate how things swing or fall when they're severed from the main trunk of the tree or the trunk itself. So he said it's hard to predict sometimes.
And we were in Tennessee. What was that? One of the tornadoes and stuff came through. So we were driving back through some of the areas that got hit by tornadoes, and it's kind of see the trees all twisted and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy what wind can do to trees and stuff.
There's an interesting video put out by Kentucky Extension about the most recent tornado damage. Apparently their grain and livestock research center was hit in the tornadoes. I think in that part of the tornado, no one was hurt, but the whole facility completely destroyed. So yeah, we can link to that video also. It's interesting the damage that occurs with that amount of wind and storms come through. Well, that's kind of a downer. We got any uppers to end on?
At least we're getting to a good time of year where we can start trimming trees and maybe prevent some of that damage that can be done with storms and dead limbs and dead portions of trees.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is the time of year that we can definitely do it. I mean, again, it's not that cold out, so what else are we going to do? We'll go outside and get some work done, I guess.
Start cutting the grass here soon.
Oh, don't say that. Yeah, the neighbors who have very nice lawns and that feed and do all that stuff, they have thick, full green grass right now. So, and they mowed it on Sunday, 2 days ago. So,
wow.
Yeah. My lawn, on the other hand, does not need to be mowed because it is mostly Nimblewill, Creeping Charlie, Dandelion, that kind of stuff.
Me too.
Well, Ken, Katie, this has been one whirlwind of a year. We have done quite a few podcast episodes. We've talked to a lot of people. Wonder, does anything stand out in your mind, Katie, from this last year? Any particular guest or topic that was like, whoa, I didn't know that?
Oh, every time that we speak with someone, it seems like there's something new that we have to learn. So it's been great to speak with all the different people that we have had the opportunity to learn about some different things that are going on throughout the state that we may not be aware of.
Ken?
I would echo that. And I think if it was this year or last year, it all blends together. But the native plant one, we're talking about favorite native plants. And who was that with? Martha and
Elizabeth.
Austin.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Lane down there too?
And Lane, yep.
And Elizabeth too. So got some ideas for some more plants to grow, which my wife wasn't necessarily excited about, but yeah, those were good. I thought of another one. It just left me. So
it's always fun to try new things. It was fun to get together in person with Dwayne and talk about farm ponds and pond issues. Did you have a favorite, Chris?
Well, I know the native plant one with Martha, Austin, and Lane. That was probably our most popular one. We got the most views, listens out of all of them with that one. And actually that one was so long, we had to break it up into 2 episodes because we just kept talking about it. Like we were just, we really dove into the topic there. So, but I agree with you, Katie. I really like the things that made me want to try something new. So I have pawpaws that I'm going to start after we talk with Doug Ducker. And I have saffron crocus that I'm going to start after talking with Elizabeth. So I've planted all that stuff and we'll see if anything comes of it. And then, Ken, we talked about, you had an episode where we talked tulips. And again, I don't know if that was last year, this year, when it was.
It was this year.
Was it this year?
Uh-huh.
I ordered a couple of those that Ken had mentioned on that episode. And I only got one, World Peace. That's the only one that arrived. The others said they were not coming. So.
Yeah, we got some more tulips this year, so maybe we can talk about them again. This year we planted a rainbow.
Oh, that's cool.
That'll be neat.
We'll see how it works out.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of shipping delays with tulips, and I think we got ours almost a month later than we did last year.
Mhm.
So
Got it.
well, the other one was the dean, having the dean on.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yep.
She's no longer the dean though.
I know. We are currently in a
Good thing.
search for the dean. So if you have a PhD and like agriculture, just give my boss's boss a call.
And then you too can be on the podcast.
That's right.
Do you guys remember too with the oh, wasn't it Dr. Janik or something that we spoke to about snakes? That one was pretty fascinating.
Mhm.
And I don't like snakes, so that says a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and actually just chatted with one of our Master Naturalist volunteers 2 weeks ago, and she said she watched the episode and she's like rewatched it a couple times, and she has snakes and things that come up on her porch to sun themselves, and so she asked for his contact information. So she reached out to him for some ID. All right. Well, that was a whirlwind of a year. So Ken, Katie, thank you so much for being here, taking the time to do this, being steering the ship here. So we appreciate everything that you do. And also our producer, Wendy Ferguson, who is hiding back there. I see you there, Wendy. I know you're here. So thank you so much for everything that you've done as well.
Thank you, Chris, for being our leader, and Ken and Wendy. It's always good to have you guys too.
Yes, thank you, Wendy, Katie, Chris. It's been fun. Chris, thank you for being our fearless leader.
No, don't call me that.
Even though you claim you're not.
Well,
He
I
really
neither
is,
lead.
though. He really
I'm-
is.
Oh, there's
Neither-
Wendy.
There you are, Wendy. I knew you were there.
Yep.
You were the ringmaster of this circus.
You're
Yes.
so important that Wendy decided on you.
Yep, exactly. Just because it's the holiday episode. So there you have it.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear your voice. So that is great. So,
And hey,
well,
let's do this again next year.
we shall do this again next year. I believe we are going to be kicking off season 3 of the Good Growing Podcast, talking about CSAs with Nick Frillman. So that will be exciting. But folks, we are taking a couple of weeks off of making some bigger episodes. Not only do we have the holidays, but we also have the Illinois Specialty Crops Conference, which all of us are going to be at in Springfield for a whole week. So unless we get our act together and pull off an episode there, next time you'll hear us is going to be chatting with Nick Frillman. So listeners, thank you for doing what you do best, and that is listening. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, have a happy holidays, a happy new year, and as always, keep on growing.